This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
.651 Carpets Plus Studios. There we go. Let's get some music in the house here, 9 to noon on a Tuesday. 651 Carpets Plus Studios. It's Nordo in for PA. Sunny skies, low 70s. Beautiful morning. Holiday week. Loving that. Vocal maintenance for the host. And we'll get to the TimberTech set list in a few minutes. But I want to start here because it's NBA deal-making season. Thanks to Kara, by the way, producing 9 to noon. We're looking for a guard, Timberwolves fans, and, well, maybe the team's just running it back. We shall see. But have you ever feel we knew this would happen? We knew that re-upping Naz Reid, we knew that reworking Randall's deal would make certain other certain things maybe difficult to do. And sadly, it means we have to say goodbye to this guy.
Here's Jaden McDaniels off to Ant, up top off the Rudy screen. And on the attack in the lane, drops it back out. Nikhil straight away on the three. Got it. Nikhil has been money from downtown tonight, 3 for 3. He's got 11 points overall, and the Wolves are within 4.
No, man.
Dante with it up top. Nas sends the screen. That frees Dante up for the triple. He missed it long. Nas battles for the rebound. He's got it at the left elbow. He'll dribble out of trouble. TJ Shannon up top to Dante. Right side Nikhil. Catch and shoot. Contested three. And he buries it under duress. Fifth three of the night for Nikhil. He's got 21.
Yeah, he did indeed. Nikhil Alexander Walker. You remember that? Alan Horton on the call, voice of the Wolves, and during a sad ending to a playoff run, bring you to the Western Conference Final 2 years in a row. I believe those were from Game 4, the tight loss after the blowout victory that gave us hope. The tight loss that felt like a gut punch in Game 5. See you later. Welcome to the offseason. But nah, man. Big right? You knew it might happen, so here it is. He agrees to a 4-year deal. Nikhil Alexander Walker does. It's deal-making season in the NBA. Is headed to the ATL. He'll be joining the Atlanta Hawks. And what a run here for the Wolves with Nikhil. Now, stats, certainly not always jumping off the page, but he made all the games, played 82 each year. Defensive presence became apparent early and often. And we actually, 9 to noon, prior to last season, we got to do a really cool show at the training facility, Mayo Health Square. And I think it was actually in the same room where you may have seen kind of their draft night entourage as they made their selections. Berenger joining the Howl last week. But we got the opportunity to interview Nikhil 9 to noon, PA and I at the facility. Thoughtful, engaging guy, I admit. You know, when you say that, it's almost, in some ways, it feels condescending to say that. You know, pro athlete, what is he? Is he supposed to just be a dumb jock? But I will admit, engaging and thoughtful, not always a guarantee in the association, in professional sports in general. There's a standoffishness that you can feel. There is maybe a skepticism or almost a suspicion it always just kind of creates that line. And, you know, we do what we can. We stay on our side of the fence, and we just want to get to know these guys that are playing for our favorite teams. But Nikhil was, what a pleasure it was to meet him and to chat with him, if only for 20, 25 minutes on a 9 to noon morning at the facility. But he really became, over these last 2 years, one of the better, quote-unquote, 3 and D players in the NBA. You're going to get a couple triples from Nikhil, maybe 5, like you heard in the highlight there, Game 4. We needed it. A steal here and there, hands all over the place. The deflector that Nikhil Alexander Walker was, extraordinary at it. He's an absolute pest. That was kind of the aura that he was providing to the adversary. And it's really cool to see how he got here as well. 2019 first rounder, and of course, we joke about it every draft, and this is a classic NBA story. He's drafted by the Nets. His rights are traded somewhere else. I don't even remember which team it was. But then he ends up with his third squad before he's ever even played a game. Hopefully he got all the hats as part of this process. But he ends up in New Orleans with the Pelicans. And you want to talk about afterthought. I really only knew him starting his career in the NBA. I really only knew him from like a fantasy hoops perspective. I'm looking for that 3 and that D, trying to win a couple of categories once every so often. I'd stumble upon Nikhil on the waiver wire. Maybe he helps me out, maybe he doesn't. But it's kind of nutty, by the way, as an aside. Both he and Josh Hart, along with Nikhil, languishing quite a bit, actually, down in the bayou before they're both traded out. And Josh Hart, if you're familiar with the name, he's now one of the scrappiest players in the league, getting triple doubles alongside Cat at Madison Square Garden with the Knicks. And we know what Nikhil became, and we know what he meant to the Howl. And since he showed up in the Conley trade from Utah, instant impact guy, the consistency, and really a vital piece to the puzzle. And while the shooting, it wasn't great early on in the playoffs this last year, but it felt like he was really the only guy at times that you could rely on in the OKC series, where it felt like you were starting to lie down, like this thing was going to go the wrong way. There was a freight train, nothing we can do to stop it. Nikhil did not stop. And went from getting dealt like a hot potato to a 2-year, $9 million deal here. And now he's getting $62 million over 4 with the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks are building a squad. Could be. Best part of the year, deal-making season. Because everything's on paper. No games count. And talk about fantasy. Many markets living in fantasy land right now as we speak. But the Hawks might be building a squad around Trae Young. It's the East, so it's not exactly going to take, it doesn't take a ton to make a jump in the East these days. But Dyson Daniels might be a player. He's still just 22. Jalen Johnson is an absolute beast. Be cool if he could stay on the freaking court for like the first time ever in his career. I think he only played 35, 36 games last year, 50, 60 the year before. That's a trend that needs to reverse course if you are of the Atlanta Hawks loving ilk. But then they have Kristaps Porzingis now too. The unicorn. Speaking of staying healthy. Kristaps, stay healthy. And then they got this Okongwu cat. He kind of took Clint Capella's job at the 5. Easy buckets, rebounds, a couple of blocks. All that means is Nikhil Alexander Walker is going to get a ton of serious opportunity to play with Atlanta starting this fall. Grinder, the work paid off for him. It is indeed a gut punch for Wolves and the Wolves fans, but awesome for a terrific dude like Nikhil. So certainly cheers to him. Now also, as we're kind of watching deal-making season, it's like, okay, so we just got rid of Nikhil. Like, who are we going to add? No more Luka Garza?
Oh my gosh, can you above average at that?
Yeah, I saw this yesterday. Shams. Free agent center Luka Garza has agreed to a 2-year, $5.5 million fully guaranteed contract with the Boston Celtics. Sources tell ESPN. How do we feel about this, Wolves fans? Luka Garza gone to the Celtics. Instant offense, right? And I always make a joke. One of my buddies, big Iowa Wolves fan, always loves 2 or 3 weekends. He'll go down there, he gets to the hotel, watches the game, tries to get feet on the floor with some courtside of the Iowa Wolves. He's got a couple of game-worn Garzas. There's no doubt about that. Biggest Luka Garza fan that is not related to Luka Garza. He's crushed, and he won't return my text messages right now. But instant offense, Luka Garza. If you look at his statistics per 36 minutes, you'd think we just lost Julius Randle. But did we? And this one's tricky for me, and I'd like to lean on the hoops heads, those that maybe see it more clearly than I do. I'm kind of split because at times I'm feeling defensive liability. I'm feeling not fitting into the mix in general, and those resulting in him not getting minutes. But is this, when you think about Luka Garza not being here any longer, Luka Garza, as Nickeil Alexander-Walker moves on, and we will be asking those down the depth chart to step up, to take hold of the opportunity. One guy that will not get those, of course, now will be Luka, heading to Boston. But is this a crime of the coach not figuring out how to utilize him in this system? Or is this the reality of him not seizing a larger role with opportunities given? I guess, is it Finchie's fault? Or is it Garza? But Garza moves on. Interested to hear what you Wolves fans think about that. 64686 would be the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. But indeed, it is deal-making season. That kicked off last evening. Can't wait for all these big deals to go through. And now you're like, Luke Cornett? What? Who is this guy? So it was kind of an interesting evening in the NBA. Now, of course, we got Tarasenko. Or is it, we got Tarasenko? NHL free agency. The bell rings at 11 o'clock today. Looking forward to that. Wake up, it's the first of the month, and it's NHL free agency day. And that's all part of a Tuesday TimberTech set list, 9 to noon. It is Nordo in for PA. And Lavelle E, Neal III, columnist, Star Tribune, potpourri style, he's going to be in studio at 9:30. And we'll revisit some of this conversation. Of course, the Twins are down in South Florida, and it's Joe Ryan on the mound. Last great hope that this Twins pitching staff has is going after the Marlins today. Looking forward to that. But several topics to get into with Lavelle. We will, again, deal-making season that we're looking at with the NBA. Where do the Wolves continue to get better? Is it truly all about what we got now, taking those steps forward? We'll discuss that with Lavelle. And then around 11 o'clock, it will be Kevin Fallness, Wild Radio Network. He's going to be in studio as we run through not just the Tarasenko, but some of the moves that we're seeing throughout the NHL as free agency opens in earnest at 11 o'clock and around 11:30. Special guest, by the way, props to Fallness. The recently traded Freddie Gaudreau might be checking in with us. So we'll catch up with him now that he's in Seattle. And again, Tarasenko? That's all part of the TimberTech set list brought to you by TimberTech, doing decking differently. TimberTech.com. Kara, producing and running 9 to noon today. So she's handling the board, she's handling the music, she's handling the mood, and she's handling a cash-giving opportunity that she's going to offer you right now.
Yeah, the fan and BigDeck.com wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword GRAND at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword GRAND. Enter it now at KFAN.com.
messages always appreciated 9 to noon. Normally when I'm producing and PA is here, I like to respond to them and engage. Good, bad, ugly. It's all good. Makes my morning, and I appreciate it. Max and Egan, if Luka Garza had Rudy Gobert's body, he would be a top 5 center in the league. He can post up, he can shoot threes, boxes out like no other. The only thing holding him back is his size and mobility. Well, I can tell you, if I was 7 feet tall, my weight would be proportionate to my body. But we can't change who we are, can we? Maybe top 5. He's definitely going to get more opportunity now with 70-year-old Al Horford in Boston. So we'll see how he handles it. But I got the other side of it. Garza shoots the three at below 30%. League average is 35%. He does not defend. I don't see instant offense. I see someone who shot 0 for 6 against the Wizards, and we lose by 2.
No!
Very next game, he shoots 1 of 5. We lose by 2 to the Kings.
No!
He thinks he's Dirk. He's a local kid, that's all.
Oh my gosh, can you above average at that?
Scathing indictment. Neal checks in. Fully expect Luka Garza to take off in Boston and become a national name. CJ in Minneapolis. If Al Horford re-signs with Boston, that'll be a key. He'll be a great mentor to Luka, CJ says. Very similar skill set. Sad to see him go. Before he was so fun to watch in limited time, but he didn't have the defensive talent to play with Rudy behind him. Indeed. More text messages. I thought when Cat was traded that they would have given Garza more of a look in regular playing time. I don't think his defense would have been all-star level, but I believe his offensive output would have offset any defensive shortcomings. Disappointed that Finch didn't give him more consistent opportunity. So, yeah, again, that's where I've kind of put it. And I don't think it's always that simple, but in some ways it feels like, okay, it's either a crime of the coach not finding a way to work him into the mix, or it's a crime of the player not taking better advantage of those certain opportunities. Where, yeah, I know you can jump off the bench, Luka, and take 6 shots. I get that. What if I need you to come off the bench and find a steal, find a deflection, right? Where we were celebrating Nickeil Alexander-Walker last segment. Find that defensive moment. Help get a stop. And so, again, crime of the coach could be just the environment, the particular situation he's in, right? Because I got this text. Shannon and Clark need minutes. That's specific with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Made expendable. I don't look at Nickeil as being expendable. I look at it strictly as a money thing. He played himself into a spot where he got paid. If this was a situation where we could get Nickeil back on another 2-year, $9 million deal, we have Nickeil. So I'm not ready to say, and I want Jalen Clark to get more opportunity, but I can't say that. And even the 3 minutes of fury that we've been seeing with Terrence Shannon Jr., it's tough for me to say that Nickeil became expendable. Another text. Nordo, been coaching ball for over 20 years. Luka's situation is pure situational. There you go. Too many talented bigs in front of him. Every NBA player was most likely the best player on their college team at some point. Wolves did right by Luka to let him go and get 5.5. I'm not mad at that opinion at all. So best of luck to Luka. Whether he couldn't adapt or accommodate the system, or the system could not adapt and accommodate him, he will definitely get better opportunities than in Boston than he got here. Got this text. Nordo, you need to check in on Rosen. He's a huge Garza Bobo and is most likely in mourning. I'll pass that on to the Grum. Next time Rosie's in, we can check and see if he's okay. Sometimes you need a friendly hand on the shoulder. There's no doubt about that. Isn't it nice as we kind of talk our way through some of this stuff, though? And we're still in waiting, right? But it's nice to have Tim Connolly running this thing. And it's just a little appreciation, little perspective, a little love in some ways. I mean, we aren't too far removed here from a period of time where we're trying to figure out, like, Jarrett Culver, is this like a serious thing? Chris Dunn. I mean, we go back farther, Derek Williams, Wesley Johnson. I mean, you guys know the names. We don't need to rattle off every name. Not every name's been awful, but we've had some struggles before. And there's just, it feels like, now in fairness, as I go down this road, some of you are hearing this and pondering Rob Dillingham. And in fairness, as I was looking through some of this yesterday, the thought did cross my mind, right? And so year two, part of this conversation, Dillingham has to be ready to freaking play in the fall. So whatever that looks like, he's has to contribute something. And so that is 100% an A topic that is mixed into this. I just feel there's something impressive and focused and organized about Connolly, about this leadership group. And you kind of feel like you see the vision of this team. And I think it actually makes sense. And there's a stability there that I think, similarly, I could align this as you look over to the Purple and Egan. Again, just good management, good leadership, and it creates that stability and kind of a cultural pathway to success. And a couple of Western Conference Finals spots in a row. We want to get over that hump, certainly. So what you going to do, Tim? What you going to do, Tim? A lot of work to do, certainly. But now that Nikhil is to the Hawks, now that Luka's to Boston, and Rosie, tough morning for Rosie. What's next? You got some trade exception bit for like $7 million. Maybe that's a chip in your pocket they could hold on to. I think it expires in a year or something like that. Second apron this, gut apron that. Watch out for the Rockets and Mavs, right? Rockets going for it. They had Capella. He's no longer, he's nowhere close to the great rebounder he used to be, but they're adding. Of course, Kevin Durant would be the A topic there. The Mavs got D'Lo. Best of luck to the Mavs until Kyrie Irving comes back. That's really all you say. But deal-making season, biggest moves of the night, kind of mentioned it in passing. While we still kind of wait, what are we going to do? Maybe we don't do much at all. From a financial perspective, our best work and maybe the only available work for us at this time is going to be through some sort of trade. So we'll see what Timmy has up his sleeves. But deal-making season, man, kind of a little underwhelming. I mean, if you wanted Tyus Jones to play here while he's headed, it's like a 1-year, $7 million deal. He's going to play with Jalen Suggs down in Orlando. Cool team for sure. Speaking of the East and it not taking much to get a jump, like Desmond Bane, they got Wagner. Banchero would be the elite of that name group. Brooke Lopez. Lopez was kind of a name that was bandied about for a while here, but maybe only under the pretense that Rudy Gobert was going to be traded. Rudy's here. So Brooke Lopez is joining the Clippers. Him and Zubats. 2-year deal there. Clint Capella, mentioned him. He goes to Houston. Cam Johnson, it was kind of in, Denver. Did Tim Connolly and the Timberwolves break Denver? Where a title-winning team that featured the consummate MVP, Joker, then you have Jamal Murray. At one point, they had Bruce Brown, who left and now is coming back. But Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the names. Michael Porter Jr. was somebody they had so much hope for in ascending. Really hasn't. Inconsistency, injuries early on. Now he's a meat and potatoes type player, which there's value in that. So I'm not saying he doesn't deserve to be in the NBA by any stretch. But they trade Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson, and it's kind of like they almost traded for the same person.
Oh my gosh, can you above average?
So Denver's about cooked. There's no doubt about that. But this crazy deal making season that I was so hoping was going to be this crazy frenzy. A little bit of a yawner thus far. So more to come from the Minnesota Timberwolves. More to come from the Minnesota Wild, who, well, free agency opens at 11, but they got Tarasenko. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to Lavelle E, Neal III, columnist, Star Tribune. He's in studio with me, Nordo, next on The Fan.
And
We've got your shot to win tickets to Summer of Loud 2025, Friday, July 11th at Somerset Amphitheater. See performances from Beartooth, I Prevail, Parkway Drive, and more. Head over to our contest page to see how you can win today. That's KFAN.com, keyword contests.
That's the voice of Kara Savage. I'm Nordo in for PA on a Tuesday morning. Joining me in studio now, the columnist, courtesy of the Star Tribune, startribune.com. It is Lavelle Neal III. Lavelle Neal via X. How you doing, Lavelle?
I'm doing fantastic, sir. How are you?
Good. Well, I was good, and I was even better a couple days ago as I was following you live posting the U.S. Costa Rica Gold Cup match at U.S. Bank. How was the bank as hosts to this game? Because I've been to soccer matches in the past, a couple specifically at U.S. Bank, and the trouble that you're always going to get with an artificial surface is when you try to tamp down real grass with very limited time to do it, that you get the seams, you potentially get injuries. Is it the ICC? Remember the International Champions Cup bit?
Yes, I remember that. That was an issue.
Exactly. No. But it sounds like it was not an issue this time around, and they were a tremendous presentation of games.
There was a little bit of an issue with the surface.
Okay.
Because after the game, Mauricio Pochettino said that he thought the surface was a little dry and it made play slow, and they could not play as quick as they wanted to. There was a stretch in the first half where there was a break in action, and about 3 or 4 Costa Rican players ran over to the sideline to change their shoes because they were slipping on the turf. So I'm not sure how it's layered.
So actually there was an issue.
Yeah. I'm not sure how it's layered. I don't know. Do you put plywood down on top of the fake grass and then build like a sand and dirt base and then put grass on top of that? I'm not sure what the process is. I'm not greenskeeper guy. You know?
Okay. Well,
I'm not Larry DeVito guy.
Kind of wish you are. Wish you were.
But it was an issue, and there was some slippage. The penalty that Tolkien. No, it wasn't Tolkien. The penalty that the left back whose name's Arfston.
Yes.
He committed. Part of that was because he slipped and he couldn't stop himself. End up clobbering the guy, So it was a little bit of an issue. And
that's the one that led to Calvo's goal, right?
Yes, of all people.
Scarves down for Loons Nation. Francisco Calvo.
Yeah, but he choked in the penalty kick shootout with that terrible attempt against Matt Freese, who now is like Mr. Nails now. But the tournament's run by CONCACAF, and I want to trash CONCACAF. There's some nice people there who I talked to, and
I get it.
They meant well, but man, I see. Let's see. First of all, there was no materials. You had to go online to look up like rosters and things like that. So they didn't present any of that. And then
not even like a lineup card or anything.
No, you had to like scan. You had to do a QR scan to find the lineups and stuff.
Convenient.
I know. All they had to drink was water. The soda machine was turned off. And I showed up during halftime of the Canada-Guatemala game. And by that time, they'd already put the food away, and there was no food left for the rest of the day. So, it was like the second half of Canada-Guatemala, and all of USA, Costa Rica, there was nothing to eat. They had, pastries to munch on. That was pretty much it.
It's crazy. Somebody mentioned that, half the stadium, there were so many, I guess, enough people there throughout with the multiple games that they did actually run out of food from even a concession standpoint.
They announced 32,000 fans for the game. And Guatemala showed up in force. I didn't expect. Someone was saying that we had written about this. I don't remember writing about it in our paper, but They came in full force, man. They had the light blue shirts with the swash across the front. They were loud. They were passionate. They waved flags. We were concerned. We were interested in seeing after the Guatemala upset of Canada, because Canada was a favorite in the tournament. If they would leave, and all of a sudden would the stadium look even less empty than it did, more empty than it did. But no, they stayed for the second game.
That's cool.
They were the MVP of the game. They brought it. They were passionate. United States fans, man, we're dull. I mean, we got the group that comes in and plays the drum. So you hear that drum noise for 90 minutes. The only time the USA chant got loud was like in the 55th minute. We marked it down. It was like the 55th minute was when we heard like a decent USA chant. So we kind of just sit and watch like we were watching a play, man. And it was weird. So, but the second half was much better than the first. A little more up and down. United States had several chances during run of play and off set pieces. Of course, they ended up giving up the tying goal off of terrible defensive lapse with the back line. I can't remember what kid split the two defenders and then got into the box and taking a shot that was rebounded and scored upon. But penalty kick was exciting. The PKs were exciting, man. With Freeze stepping up and stopping three. And the other guy was Keylor Navas, who we all know there was one time he was like considered one of the top 10 goalkeepers in the world.
Yeah, he spent time with Real Madrid, maybe, was it?
He's 38 now.
Yeah.
So he's on the backside. He's on the back nine of his career.
Keylor Navas had a great career for him.
He did. But the United States prevailed.
I thought the penalties were awful, to be honest with you. And I'm happy that Freeze, I mean, it is.
You mean the quality of the penalties taken?
The quality of the penalties were putrid at times. So I think, I mean, all props, you still got to save them, which is cool.
Right.
But I think it was drama that ultimately was manufactured by poor play from the spot.
Well, Sebastian Berhalter skied his. That was not good. Like I said, Calvo's was bad because he didn't get all that ball. I don't know if he's trying to be cute, but when I watch penalty kicks, I always think about Tony Meola because Meola always says, when you're a goalkeeper, you just focus on your goal is just to stop one. If you stop one, then you think your team has a chance to score. As it turned out, they needed to stop three.
Yeah,
we didn't see that coming. So, CONCACAF's got to be happy now because they were looking at a Guatemala, Costa Rica semifinal, which no one saw coming.
Not interested.
And then I think that semifinal's in St. Louis. So now you got United States and Guatemala. And there's going to be hatred in that game because we hate Guatemala from the times we've gone down there for qualifying, and they've resorted to all sorts of skullduggery and dark arts in those games. And now, facing our neighbors to the above us, or mostly above us, Canada. Now we're on track to face Mexico in the final. Yeah. And Mexico got a favorable matchup too, because I believe it's Honduras.
Yeah.
Yes. So by the end, when the smoke clears, it could be USA Mexico all over again for the Gold Cup.
As it should be.
Yes.
Are you pumped for the World Cup, by the way?
Very pumped. Extremely pumped. I'm fired up by the Club World Cup, and I'm mad because all these stories have come out. The attendance for the first round of the Gold Cup are horrible. A million empty seats.
The only coverage is supposedly nobody cares.
No one wants to go see Al Ali play. No one wants to go see Brisbane play. All right? This is about now that we're in the knockout stage, and now you've got Juventus, and you got Chelsea, and you got PSG.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know who's left from the Brazilian league, but the Brazilian club teams acquitted themselves well in group stage. I don't know how many of them still left, but now it's the Blue Bloods are going to take over, and these stadiums will be packed.
They'll be
I just thought that was a knee-jerk reaction. We knew that it was going to be like that for the first round.
No, I agree with you, but that's really been, and it hasn't even been the story of teams advancing or any moments within it. It has been purely covered as the thing that nobody apparently cares about.
Right. Your boy Zlatan just went off on Inter Miami and said Messi should not be there. He says he plays with statues because after that dismantling by PSG.
Is he wrong?
No, he's not. He really isn't wrong. They got like three guys that are like 37 years old on that team, right? Sergio Jordi Alba.
Do they still
Sergio
have Suarez
Busquets.
down there?
I think he's still there.
Yeah, Suarez. I mean, Suarez should have hung it up 5 years ago, it feels like. But you got Messi.
Yeah.
And you can fill a stadium with Messi. There's no doubt about that. I'm just the World Cup for me, like I became a soccer fan watching World Cup 94 and really falling in love with the players and the names. And you mentioned Miola as a mediocre high school goalkeeper myself. Like I've always, Casey Keller, you were talking off air about Cody Cropper. I'm familiar with him and he wasn't born in Minnesota, but I think a large part of his childhood he was here.
Correct.
And I don't think he ever made it up to the big national club, but he spent a lot of time in the U20s, U23 maybe. So for me, like, that is what draws me in, and I love the international tournament. You mentioned the flags and all of that. I'm just curious in terms of hosting it. Now we're going from 32 to 48 teams, I believe. Like, I'm just interested to know interested to see, I should say, and I won't have to wait long. It'll be next summer, how we handle it as the hosts.
Yeah, I can't remember
what the whole thing looks like.
I reported, and I can't remember the number. I know Canada and Mexico each hosting 13 games. The United States are hosting like 70 games or something like that. It's like the first 3 weeks of that tournament, we're going to be able to see like a total of like 60 games. And that's just mind boggling to me.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure if we're going to cover it from a newspaper standpoint, but I'm going to either cover a game or I'm going to watch a game because
I think
I covered the 94 World Cup game between the United States and Brazil. I was at Palo Alto.
How fun was that?
It was awesome.
That's sweet.
And I mentioned it in my column that's actually in today's paper that was online yesterday because I got mad because the Costa Rica media were loudly cheering in the press box
during
the second half of the USA game.
Let them cheer.
And they're media people. Look, it was just like 1994. We're at Stanford Stadium, Palo Alto.
Yeah.
Brazilian journalists showing up in the press box wearing Brazil jerseys. And loudly cheering and reacting and almost crying when the goal was scored. Was it Romario? I think Bebeto passed to Romario, or did Romario pass to Bebeto? I can't remember.
I think it was Romario with
but they connected on the goal.
It was a 1-0 loss, right? Yeah.
And then remember, the United States played with a man advantage because Leonardo clobbered John Harkes, I believe, and knocked him out of the game. But they're like, crying when the goal was scored and all this stuff. And I'm like, come on now. And watching the Costa Rica media jump up and cheer when Sebastian Berhalter skied his penalty kick attempt right in front of me, the row right in front of me in the press box at U.S. Bank. So
there's an etiquette. There's a decorum.
I wasn't a fan.
And they were clearly against it. I got this text message. Enough of the soccer talk.
I knew that was coming.
Get to your softball questions about the Twins that this Polad pocket protector can eat up and tell us how good the Twins are when they are terrible.
Is that from Chad Abbott?
It doesn't have a name attached to it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, C.Abbott or G. Swedberg. See, the trouble is there's not enough G's in the last name, so it can't actually be from my super boss. I got bosses. I got
right.
A boss, a super boss, and a super boss. Shout out to Lonnie. We will eventually get to the baseball team, but to the Wolves. I kind of opened the show talking about it, losing Nickeil Alexander-Walker, kind of the, in some ways a casualty of the Naz Reid extension, and then reworking the deal, 3 and $100 for Julius Randle. What do you think of the Howl?
I think it was inevitable when they re-signed Nas and Julius that it was going to be hard to sign Nickeil and not get over the second apron terrorism. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but you know what? You got Terrence Shannon Jr. to step into that spot in the rotation. I want to see it. I want to see if he can hold his own defensively. I know he'll score some points. Now, I've been lamenting the fact that the Wolves need more scorers on the roster.
Right.
When Ant and Randall are like your two main guys. Nas coming off the bench for a little bit, but you're starting three guys in Conley, McDaniels, and Gobert where you're not sure where you're getting offensively from those guys on a given night.
Exactly.
And that makes the Wolves a little easier to defend than some other teams. And that's my issue. So I want to get more scores. I hope they can find a way to bring in a veteran point guard that can put the ball in the basket a little bit and maybe share that spot with Conley. I was reading Chris Hines' story today in the Star Tribune, and I think the Wolves have 13 players under contract, so they're required to have 15 under contract. So they got to add.
We can add on.
They got to add a couple guys. So we'll we'll see. I haven't looked at the top NBA free agents remaining. I know there was some movement yesterday and a couple trades. I saw your boy Luka Garza go to Boston. Good luck with him. He knows his limitations and he works his ass off to cover up for them. And I think he'll be a guy that figures out a way to have an 8 to 10 year career as a functioning guy in the NBA.
People are mad he's gone.
Yeah, it's tough. But where was he going to play in this rotation? And plus defensively, his agility is an issue, man. And I focus on Garza whenever he comes in, just because I keep looking at him and keep looking at that's that guy from Iowa who tormented my Illini for 4 years. Because that's what I remember him from.
Well, and he's a G League superstar.
Just getting up and down the court and keeping up with faster guys. He's like running at 110% to get down the court, man.
Yeah.
It's what he was given. He's playing with what he's got. But I think he'll find a way with more experience to have a functional career. So,
well, I'm just curious whether, because I was joking about it earlier in the show, the idea, you look at his per 36-minute stats, like this guy comes in and he's taking shots.
Yep.
So I wonder, in terms of his limited opportunities here, if at some point the head coach is like, I don't need you to come in and take 6 threes, Luka. Like, I actually need you to come in and get a stop here. Like, that's what I need your focus to be. You know what I mean? Where, this is a guy, he can shoot the ball a little bit. You mentioned the physical and the mobility limitations that he has naturally.
Right.
But what about the issue from a defensive standpoint? Did he really fit into the mold of what we were trying to do here? And I'm just curious if that's part of what led to a Wolves team. And this includes, you mentioned Terrence Shannon Jr. Mm-hmm. This is an 8 deep team. Because effectively, as we're looking at, quote unquote, running it back, right? And totally with you on the guard spot, you're still like, okay, well, first up off the bench is going to be Nas and DiVincenzo. And now instead of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who that would have been last year,
right?
Maybe it is Terrence Shannon Jr. So you're really dependent truly on the same group. Now Terrence Shannon Jr. has to be more than 3 minutes of fury. He has to expand that, right? Now he's going to get, I want him to get 20 minutes a game, maybe something like that.
I agree.
But then Jalen Clark he couldn't beg his way onto the court in the playoffs. And we were at times begging Chris Finch to kind of stretch out that bench a little bit and see what else was there.
The rotations get short in the postseason, though, man. Coaches shorten the rotations a lot, down to 7, 8 guys at the most. During the regular season, you don't see coaches use up to 10 guys in a game.
Well, I do agree with you, and it wasn't like 11 guys getting action every single game. But if we are in the mold of watching how the team that got over the hump got there, you have to offer respect to Daigneault in figuring out a system that was really able to include the Kayson Williams cats of the bench.
Right.
And he wasn't necessarily going 11 deep every night, but he had a solid 8, 9, 10 that potentially were offering something defensively and big spots, maybe a corner 3 here and there. And we were kind of begging. We were, and frankly, this is to your point. Rudy's not offering offense. Conley just wasn't reliable. And the up and down nature of Jaden McDaniel scoring at times, we were begging for something, right? It can't just be Ant and Randall.
Right.
And OKC was able to offer that, deeper portions of their bench. The Wolves didn't have it. So this time around, it just feels like we're kind of going back to that spot where we're an 8 deep team. This hasn't even included the idea of Rob Dillingham. You know what I mean? Like Rob Dillingham has to be an NBA player this year. And so it's just, you're looking for changes. And I keep getting these text messages. Everyone's in on Malcolm Brogdon. He's going to be signed by the Wolves. We'll see. I don't know.
No, we'll see.
But that's the kind of move that it feels like we're looking forward to. I'm excited to see these guys step up, but there's almost like a vulnerability or an apprehension in some ways where we're not bringing in necessarily new faces. I actually just need more from the guys I got.
Yeah, right. Because I don't know unless Tim Connelly has like some big move under his sleeve that he wants to pull off here. But at this point, I'm not sure what that would be. Would that be a trade of Rudy? I don't know. I don't see that coming.
Not at this stage.
But he's got to sign someone who can help run the offense and maybe drop a few shots every now and then. I actually was fine with the draft. I mean, the NBA draft, once you get past 12 or 13, most of those guys are like developmental guys and project guys. So
tell Joker that.
Yeah, I know, but it's once in a while it clicks.
I love that every year though, where it's because ESPN or whoever has the rights from year to year to year. When they're doing the draft, there's always the classic. You need video packages to fill time on television, and it's always like best second round picks ever.
Right. Yeah.
But we always know that it's the same guys.
Yep.
The Manu Ginobilis of the world, of course, and
Right.
And your Jokic or Jokic is.
Here's the thing about Conley that we need to keep in mind here, because I went back and looked at his trade history. His first ever draft pick was Rudy Gobert, and he traded him to Utah.
Yeah.
He also traded for Joseph Nurkic, who you've bashed on this radio station multiple times, but Nurkic became a reliable 15 and 10 guy and a good rim protector in the paint.
I need to hold on. I have never bashed Yusuf Nurkic.
You and PA laughed at me because I had Nurkic on my fantasy team. And
it's not because he's on your team, Lavelle. There's a very key point that you're leaving out. The fact that you drafted him with like the first pick in the second round, that's the issue. That's what I was bashing.
I think it was a fourth round pick.
Fourth round pick?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was fourth.
I'm sure I'm remembering it incorrectly.
I think he was a swing player too. So swing players have greater value in our draft. But
no, Nurkic was cool. I had him for a couple of games when he filled in because of the Mark Williams related L that they took down there. I had Nurkic for
he's not the same player. He's not the same player. I think he blew out his Achilles. He had some really bad injuries. Yeah,
too many injuries.
So anyway, and then the third move by Conley was drafting Jokic. So my thing is, can he identify big men?
Yeah.
Skilled big men. Is that like one of his superpowers as an executive? So when he drafts
the gargantuan guru,
Jean, what's his last name?
Beringer.
Jean Beringer. Maybe he sees something. Maybe he sees the next Rudy. The video, and I can't wait till summer league so we can actually see him play.
Yeah,
because we were all running to YouTube. What type of game does this kid have? Well, he's not a big time scorer, but my God, he could get around the court.
Right.
And he's a quick twitch guy that can jump and can block shots. So I can see the infatuation. And he's 18. He's only played basketball for 4 years. He's a mound of clay. So
I'm so impressed, or just I don't know if I'm impressed or astonished what the right feeling or adjective to use there is. But it is crazy. I forget, is it Malawach? He was a cat from Duke, I think.
He's also from South Sudan.
But there's a story on him. Like these kids, and I always joke, like, if you're a 7-footer and you never make it to the NBA, like, this world is not built for you. So you're just like, if you're just a guy working in a cubicle somewhere, it's got to be very uncomfortable.
Well, say that. Don't go to China and say that. There's like 1 million 7-footers in China, and how many of them are in the NBA right now?
Well, but that's the thing is, I think in the United States, I saw something somewhere, and this is what the text line was built for. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. That at any given time, I think there's somewhere between like 70 and 100 people in the United States that are north of 7 feet. And so you gotta outsource this.
Yes.
But with Malawach, and I'm definitely mispronouncing his name, I think, but South Sudan, you mentioned it.
Right.
He's just like walking down the street one day and some dude pulls up in a cab and is like, you should play basketball. And 3 years later, he's crying on stage at the NBA draft because he has changed the lives of his entire family. It's so awesome.
Unless he had a 10-inch growth spurt like a year before that, it's hard for me to believe that story that a cab driver was driving down the street. And so, you're tall. You should play basketball. Someone should have told him that about 6 years before that.
I'm in.
I can't believe it. I heard the story. I scratched my head.
You've heard it though.
Yeah.
I think it's a true story, and I'm going to roll with it because there's really no way for you to prove me wrong on that.
No, you're right.
But to that end, some of these like simply by nature of genetics, you mention a Beringer or Sikorsky, the Aussie from where is Sunshine Coast, I think, in Australia. Sounds beautiful. And then this guy from South Sudan. These guys don't grow up in like the AAU circuit. They're not 8 years old practicing dribbling techniques in their driveway. They're just 6'6" when they're 9, and they play basketball for 4 or 5 or 6 years sometimes, but 3-4 years of hoops, and you're a 7-footer, and suddenly you're getting drafted in Brooklyn on a Wednesday or Thursday night. Like, that's awesome. That's cool for those kids.
He's come a long way, too, because I remember when he played for South Sudan in the last Olympics. And the reason I was paying attention because there was a local connection on the South Sudan team named Nuni Omat, who played at Matamidi, and I think he was at Augsburg for a year. God, I wrote this story. I can't remember it now. But anyway, he had a local tie. He ended up on the South Sudan team. And he's played like in Europe for like 8-9 years. You know, he's just been a foreign player, been able to make a living off playing basketball abroad, and he was on that team as well. So,
my last thought on this, and then I'll pause, but I'm glad you went down the draft route, Lavelle, only because when you talk about championship windows and, you know, if you pass on Beranger, so we believe that Connolly is the gargantuan guru, that he gets these big guys. So if you believe that, he takes Beranger at the pick instead of I think Walter Clayton was still out there.
And that's what a lot of Wolves fans were looking at, right?
Right. Some shooters and somebody that might actually step in as a rookie and maybe provide something there. You're going long game from the state. And I love it because if you are down on Rudy and you want to move on from Rudy at some point, love what he's done. He's an HOF defender, no doubt about it. But in the grind of the playoffs, he came up soft from an offensive perspective, didn't add a lot, became a black hole on offense. Yeah. That's a problem. So
which wasn't the first time it's happened to him in the postseason.
Correct. And it's happened two years in a row with the Howl. Mm-hmm. If you believe that, then you should be really happy that the gargantuan guru went and got a couple of young kids that may take 2 years of seasoning, but will be there, will be ready with size and athleticism and a different kind of look in the front court. I'm pretty pumped for that.
No, I think if I was a Wolves fan, I would think the same way too.
Plan ahead.
Yep. You plant some seeds here, see how they develop.
That's Lavelle E. Neal III. We're going to pause, come back. We will talk about the baseball team. We'll talk about, Lavelle has 1,000 words written, and he's just ready to hit send on his thoughts regarding Vladimir Tarasenko joining the Minnesota Wild. But it's a potpourri-style conversation with the columnist Lavelle Neal via X. It's Nordo in for PA. Second hour ahead. Don't leave.